I do just want to give you a motherfucking warm welcome to the I Am Fierce podcast, bitch. I have wanted to interview you for a long ass time.
Oh my God, that makes me feel extremely privileged. Why in the earth would anybody want to do that? But thank you so much. It's well, you've been on my podcast twice, so it's the least I can do to come and speak to you. Thanks very much for having me. I'm very grateful and privileged.
No, like, that's amazing for me to hear that. It just shows you like-minded people coming together. Genuinely does mean a lot to me. And it means a lot to my listeners as well. And I'll talk a wee bit about why. Because I spoke a bit about this in your car just a couple of weeks ago, about 4 weeks ago.
I know.
I spoke about, like, there's certain people that have came out of nowhere who owe me nothing, that have helped me beyond words could even explain. Like, they've just, and you're definitely one of them. And I'll tell you why, right? Because this is just to show that you have absolutely no idea who you're helping, who you're reminding who the fuck they are, just by expressing and showing up and serving your purpose and serving your mission and your message. And that it's not all about us, and self-doubt has no place upon these ears. Because when you used to talk about, even in the first one you got me on, I was going through a lot, and I was trying to decide, because I have spent like 4 years on the internet publicly, showing up all the time, being a voice of reason for people, taking on so much of people's trauma with no boundaries for myself, no regards for my own mental health, burning myself out, undervaluing myself. And then obviously time passed. It was such an amazing experience being on yours. But then the second time I came on, we spoke a lot about me coming to Dubai. You could tell there was a shift in my whole energy. I'm a lot calmer. I'm a lot more confident and solid in what I'm offering and who I am and where I stand on certain things. I'm a lot quieter. And I think, like, just you reaffirming to me twice, like, my value is really high in your eyes. It does mean a lot, because you don't know, like, behind the scenes I was going through absolute hell. Like, last year has been so much. And people just don't know. They just assume that you're successful and everything's great, but they don't get that the more you elevate, the more shit comes your way. So thank you for being and doing what you do, because you really do help a lot of people. And even the people that inspire you, it just shows that it goes both ways. Do you know what I mean? Interesting.
Yes.
So I think I just want to start by saying, I mean, most people, you have blown up over the past year, let's be honest. You have motherfucking blown up, and everybody just wants to know, where the hell did this idea come from? Like, where did this concept of getting a lift come from? Because it's actually amazing. And it sounds quite simple, but it is amazing.
I don't actually, it's funny to hear you saying that, because I don't actually consider myself as having blown up. Like, I don't think of myself like that, but it's not a bad thing. You know, I like to remind myself that, you know, I'm just a normal person, a normal mom cutting about the knold. You know, I go about my normal business every day in Cumbernauld. I go for my coffee. People see me in Tesco. You know, I'm just a mum, like, you know, or a woman like other women, you know, cutting about. So I don't really see it as having blown up.
But you have.
often I do get overwhelmed by, you know, feedback and messages and things like that. And what that does for me is just give me a wee sort of reminder, or just that clarification that I am on the right path. So I know absolutely to my core, and believe to my core, that I'm on the right path and doing the right thing. So for me, it is all about the people that message me and say, you know, that really touched me, that really helped me, or it really made me feel better about myself, or whatever. And that is so important to me. It's important to touch real people, real lives, and let people know that on social media, certainly my platform, it's not about the picture perfect life or the perfect stories or whatever, because I don't have a perfect story. And the reason I'm telling you that is that's where my passion to doing all that I do comes from, putting out real life stuff. I'm so passionate about that because, and it's why I started my initial social media journey, was because I felt that there was so much on social media that made me feel less than. You know, we all do that comparing thing. We all do it. And when I went out there with my Instagram, which was the first thing that I did publicly, it was all about, like, my whole motivation was in my mind, no, this is what real life's like. This, I'm going to show you what it's really like. Being a mom, you know, having the whole trauma, childhood trauma, mental health, anxiety, you know, all the stuff that I have. You know, I was like really passionate about putting it out there. That's how the whole Instagram journey started. The getting a lift idea came much further down the line from that. And I'm quite open about the story as to how it got there. And I was involved in I've been involved in loads of stuff, actually. I've done loads of stuff leading up to this point that just wasn't right for me. I've made mistakes. I hold my hands up.
We will come back to that because that's such a good point. Such a good point.
I've made many, many mistakes, and I was involved in a small project and something else with someone else that was all about showcasing and platform real lives and real stories. And it was absolutely, again, totally matched to everything I believed in and stood for. To cut a long story short, because I feel that's not relevant now, although it is to kind of get me to where I was, but that didn't work out. And at that point, that was at the start of COVID, so that was March 2020. At that point, I was absolutely devastated that didn't work out, because it was with somebody else, and I believed that I was not capable of doing something, any sort of project, let's just put it that way, myself, right? I just felt like I'm not good enough to put myself out there. Nobody will want to listen to me. I'm not somebody that's well established. I'm just not going to be able to do anything now. Like, I'm not going to be able to do anything. And if I'm honest, my toys were at the pram. I was like, well, that's me. That's fine. I've been ditched. I'm not going to be able to do anything. Fine. Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. I'll just go. And that was, now, bearing in mind with the whole of COVID to deal with, and that was a massive impact. I mean, everybody was in the same situation. We were totally in panic mode. So I also had that. So I was dealing with that. And
just the world ending.
The world had
no toilet paper.
Exactly. So all happened at the same time. And then I kind of got over myself. You know, I had that self-talk of, Mary, get over yourself, you know, and I did go over myself. And I kept thinking, I'm so passionate about sharing real stories and showing the true side of real life, that I need to think of a way that I can do that with minimum, you know, computing skills, right? Minimum editing skills. Absolutely know very little about anything to do with producing content, to be honest.
You're like zero effort.
Other than doing Instagram, Emma, I'm not somebody that knows what I'm doing when it comes to the technical side of things. Well, I wasn't back then, but it's been a massive learning curve. You know, I've learned so much since that you know, time back in March 2020. So I think it was around May 2020, that I started to think, I'm really passionate about sharing stories. I feel like my background is sales and business development, and that's all down to people and people skills. So my experience was with people and people skills. So I knew that I had that. So I tried to build on what I knew I had. So I've definitely got people skills, I thought to myself. So therefore, I can definitely connect with people. I'm good at relationships. I'm good at networking, but I'm no good at editing and producing content. So what can I do that brings alive the idea of sharing stories? And I kept thinking it has to be something where the camera's just there, because I can't do anything else. Right, I can't. The camera just has to be filming the conversation. And I thought, how can you do that and still be interesting? And it just came. I just thought, well, I could do it in my car. I could just set up my phone to record.
Do it in my shed. You just do it in my shed.
If I had a shed, that would have been a good idea. I've got a garage. I thought about the garage. I thought about doing it sitting in my garage. Which is an option, by the way, if the weather was really bad, if I ever could just sit in my garage. It's got a light. It would be fine.
It's got a light.
So, it was just one day that I thought, well, that would be that, and then I thought I could call it Getting a Lift, and it would have like so many it would have multiple meanings, you know, like because it's filmed in my car.
Oh my god, I just got it. Getting a lift. Wow.
See, I don't ever explain it. I just hope that people get it. That's what I think.
I was sitting there like trying to hide the fact my eyes were glazing like that. Oh my god. I did not know, girl.
So, it's like the person coming into my car, I would hope that by sharing their story, they get a lift from that. And I would hope that the audience watching it would get a lift from that. And it's in my car and people get a lift in a car. So, I mean, in the beginning, when I did first do it, I'm jumping all over the place here a wee bit.
It's fine, that's what this is about.
There was an actual Getting a Lift part where people would go get in my car and we would drive through the drive-through and get a coffee. Yeah. But I felt like, because I wanted to keep it around an hour or within the hour isn't really that important now. I do go over the hour, but not like too much. No. I felt like doing the whole drive-through was just a lot of fannying about where like I wasn't able to focus because I was trying to do too many things. I mean, I know I can multitask because us women can multitask, but I just felt like it was a wee bit too much, messing about. So that's why it's now we just do it parked rather than do the actual going through the drive-through for the coffee. We just get the coffee, then record it, as you know. Yeah. So going back to like 3 years ago, so that I came up with that idea and I shared it with anybody that would listen, to be honest. I shared it with all my friends and anybody I was talking to, and I would say, I've got this idea, and really I was shiting my pants, to be honest, right? That's the truth. I was so worried about it, just thinking it's still that same thing of imposter syndrome. I am not good enough. People like, going, who the
also the world
she is. Going through that whole thing. And then and lots of people like Emma, for example, Mother Rendell, she was extremely instrumental in supporting me. And actually, somebody, I never put my phone in airplane mode. I'm raging with myself.
This always happens to me as well. Like my phone goes up. I'm like, not
nobody
today.
Messages you for hours, and then the minute like you need to message you get loads of messages. So like Emma, she was one of the people. I'd connected with her anyway, and I said, I've got this idea. And I even when I told her, I was like, I don't know if I'm doing it though. I don't know if I'm doing it, but this is the idea. And immediately Emma was like, oh my God, that is an amazing idea. You totally need to do that.
That's the type of bitch you need in your corner.
I've not decided if I'm doing it. But I mean, immediately she said, well, if you do it, I'll come on it.
Oh, amazing.
Like I had support for so many people that I'd shared, and I think that's why I shared it, Emma. I needed people to encourage me. I needed that. I needed to know that it wasn't the stupidest idea I'd ever had in my life. So for 2 years I sat on it. Now, to be like honest, legally, because of COVID, I couldn't have had people in my car unnecessarily anyway. It wasn't until last March that rule actually lifted. That rule has only been lifted for a year. We've only been completely free of restrictions for a year past in March. So every day I said, but I can't do it anyway because you're not allowed in other people's cars. Like, you know, that excuse suited me. It suited me. So then when the final restrictions were lifted last March, I kind of had a wee bit of a panic. And I thought to myself, if I don't put this out there, I've already put this idea into the universe. I have told anybody that will listen, it's out there. Now, I know I'm not the first person to invent a car chat. We've seen it with loads of people, you know, famous people doing it. I did not invent a car chat, right? But nobody in Scotland does it. Well, at that time, no one in Scotland did it at that time. Sorry, there's a couple of people have done it now, and you know, that's fine. The world's big enough for everybody to get. I've got no issue with that. You know, there's loads to go around. Anybody that wants to do it can do it. So at that time, though, nobody actually did it, and I just thought, if I don't do this now, then somebody else will take the idea, and it'll then not be originally my idea to do it this way in, you know, Scotland. So that was, I just then took to my Instagram, and I think I maybe had, I'm trying to think, 4,000 followers at the time, 5 at a push, but I don't think it was as much as that. I think it was about 4,000. And I just did a video. It's still there on my page. If you scroll back, it's there. I did a video in my car whilst I was driving to the fort, and the whole time I thought to myself, I will just do this video, but I am not putting it out. I'm just going to do it, but it's not going to, right? And because, you know, but obviously I wanted to put it out, but because I had that mindset, I felt
you're like in, out, shake it all about.
Yeah, and I just explained the idea, saying, here's what I'm thinking, getting a lift. So I'm thinking anybody that's got a story that they want to share, real life, mental health is a big thing, mental health issues, anything at all. And postnatal depression, I had a friend with postnatal depression, and that was the first couple. In fact, sorry, I've jumped the gun a wee bit. I actually recorded one in September 2020 with one of my friends at the time on postnatal depression. And it wasn't until I'd recorded it and put it out. It was only 20 minutes. It was just you know, like a pilot. But I realised that you actually weren't allowed to do that. You weren't allowed to be in the car with someone unnecessarily. So technically I could have been, you know, like reported. And you remember,
no popo companies, the time has passed. Free fun.
At the time, no, I'm not bothered. It's there. It's on my YouTube channel. I'm not bothered about it being there. You know, it was something that I didn't realise was a rule at the time.
They changed the rules every 2 seconds.
So that was September 2020. I did that pilot, and then I never did any more until March 2022. But the idea was born in roughly May 2020. So anyway, I put that video out on Instagram at the beginning of March 2022, and the response was actually blew me away. And compared to like the response I get now, it's even hugely different. Like that response back then to me felt huge. But now it's like
normal,
much bigger than that, and it's even the response to lots of them is even bigger. So what I did then, I got loads of messages and I started making a list, and I've still got that list. I still work with that list. I've got a huge list of people that have said to me, oh, I would come on, I would share my story, or whatever, and I still like refer back to that, and I hope that eventually I can get to everybody and share their stories. So what I did though was I started with the people closest to me. So I started with my friends. So I had Emma, I had Amy, the social mama, Emma Mother Rendell, Amy the social mama, I had Kaylee, McKendry, I had Mario on in the early days as well. And that's I would give that advice to anybody. I always say that, and that was the advice that was given to me by a really good coach of mine that I held and still hold quite dear to me. He had said, any project, anything you start with, always look at your own network first.
Yeah.
Who do you know? Who do you know that can support you? And that was where I started. And all those people, thankfully, shared the, you know, and agreed to collaborate and did all of that, which helped it get out there in the first instance.
Amazing.
So that was where the idea came from. We're now, I don't know, what are we now, 13 or 14 months down the line, about 70 odd podcasts. And it's now just part of my life. And I was just saying to somebody this morning, I mean, it might become less frequent. I might go to one a week or one a fortnight or even one a month. I don't know. The opportunities will dictate how it goes. But I feel now it's just going to be something that I will do forever. You know, like I'll just always share these conversations because it's so important to life, to mental health, to connection, that I just feel there'll always be a story to be shared.
I mean, I seen your diary and I was like, hi, full-time job.
Like, I know,
hi, full-time job.
That's sweet.
I was like, when you were showing me, I was like, that's actually a full-time job. Hello?
I know, it is. But it doesn't, you know, let's be honest as well. It's not, I am very, very lucky and privileged to be able to do this because I'm not getting paid a full-time salary. That is, or getting paid a full-time job wage.